Hi, I'm Chuck Mason, and welcome back to the channel. I was abandoned as a child on Christmas Day by my World War II veteran father, salt of the earth, doctor, the guy who would not charge patients if he knew they couldn't pay. Yes, walked out on his family right in the middle of the day, year after year, when I was a young kid. So imagine you wake up in the morning and you unwrap all of your presents and you exchange gifts and the magic of Christmas, and you're all said and done. And once the dust settles and you maybe have a little bit of breakfast and you go to your toys and you got stuff you got to put together. You're too young to figure out how, but you know that you got to get it together because you want to play. You want to enjoy all of these things. So I needed help, and I turned around to look, and I said to Mom, I said, "Hey, where's Dad?" And she said, "Your father's not here. He left." And I was devastated. I mean, what do you think? What do you do? Where did my dad go on Christmas of all days? This World War II vet, salt of the earth. And I looked at my mom and I said, "Where's Dad? It's Christmas." And she looked at me and she said, "Your father's doing house calls." Yep, Christmas Day. That's the lesson of this generation. And my father would receive calls from people who were legitimately sick and had nowhere to turn in those days in suburban Pittsburgh, in a small community. And the calls would come in and he would take them, but he would wait until after we had had our presents and we had had our gifts and we had all that exchange and the dust had settled. And he went and grabbed his bag and whatever he needed, and he would go out and he would take care of people on Christmas Day. See, back in those days, drug companies would send all kinds of samples to physicians. So my dad would have just this stash of antibiotics and decongestants and really whatever he needed to be able to treat a lot of different illnesses right then and there. And it was often funny as a kid. I'd get all these things, sometimes even like barbiturates would come through the mail and I would have no idea. But that was the late 60s and early 70s, and that's just the way it was. But that's what life was for my father. So he would take off on Christmas Day and he would go see people who legitimately were that sick. He would often treat people with pneumonia or whatever else that they just needed care. But he didn't ask questions. You see, these are the lessons he learned during World War II, working as a surgical technician, helping to put broken bodies back together, watching people to reestablish their lives in those beginning stages. And what he learned doing medicine in a community in which people were working class and really at times didn't have the ability to pay. He never asked questions. It never even dawned on him. There were people that were sick, and he was going to go care for them. So he would leave on Christmas Day, and he would go out and he would take care of patients. There wasn't a lot, but there always was one or two. And then he would come back home in time for the late afternoon, and he'd help me put toys together, and we would have Christmas together, we'd have our Christmas meal together. Mom did turkey and stuffing and all of that, and there was still that magic of Christmas. But he would walk out on his family in the middle of Christmas Day because people called and they needed him. The reason why he did that and what made that generation so incredible was that they lived by a set of principles, and those principles guided them. So when they had to make a decision as to what am I going to do, am I going to do something in my best interest, or am I going to think about the best interest of other people at different times and different places, he allowed his principles to guide him. There was balance. He would leave in the afternoon and come back in time to make sure that there was enough time for family, that there was enough time for Christmas dinner. But when faced with "no, I don't think I want to go today," or "it's Christmas," or "this is an inconvenience," or "I'm not sure," tell them to come back in when the office is open. If they're that sick, go to the emergency room. It was none of that. People needed help. And that's the lesson that he learned and that entire generation learned during the Great Depression, was that they took care of each other and they took care of their communities. And that's what built the nation. So I want to ask you, what principles do you have? What guides you? We live in a day in which we call situational ethics. When people are faced with decisions, they make a decision in that given situation, generally for what benefits them, not what is in somebody else or to meet a need or maybe benefits a community. Now, I understand there's a balance. You can't always sacrifice yourself or in national codependency. But when we live in a generation that evaluates every decision based upon its personal need and its personal gain, that's why we end up in the society in which we live. That's why we have the increased chaos. And that's one of the reasons why you feel the way you do, with the anxiety and the worry and the fear, not knowing what is going to happen next, because you are on your own, because we've left everybody on their own. But the lessons that I learned as a kid growing up was that there was time, even on Christmas Day, to go out and to take care of the people around you to the ability that you could, within the skills and whatever capacity that you had to make a difference in somebody's life, or to make a difference within the world. So I want to ask you, again, I've asked this before, what are the principles that guide you? Do you have principles? Do you even think on these levels? Many of us don't, because we were never raised this way. We were never modeled to have this. We have never seen this in action. But as we move forward, I'm going to talk more about how you find these principles, how you gain these principles, how you make them a part of your life, how you change your life, and you change the lives of the people around you, and you change your community. Thanks for being a part of the channel. Please like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And as always, God bless you and stay safe.